That's right, folks. As you heard in the intro with our vice president who made her opinions known, liberals are completely wigging out over the Roe v. Wade uh, decision. And I'm not even just it's not even just with liberals here. There's a lot of conservatives out there, a lot of women who even voted for Trump, who thought that Roe v. Wade would not be who never thought it would be reversed. But folks, it appears that the Supreme Court has voted to strike down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision, according to an initial draft majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, circulated inside the court and obtained by Politico. The draft opinion is a full-throated, unflinching repudiation of the 1973 decision, which guaranteed federal constitutional protections of abortion rights, and a subsequent 1992 decision, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that largely maintained that right. Now, Alito wrote that Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. He said that Roe and Casey must be overturned. He writes in the document, labeled as the opinion of the court. It's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Now, Rev, we've talked about this in the past, and I actually agree with Alito here. For too many years, the Democrats and the Republicans have purposely used Roe v. Wade as an excuse to not do their jobs. Congress has used Roe v. Wade as an excuse not to do their jobs and to kick it down to the Supreme Court when they should have either codified it into law or banned it. Well, either way, it should have been up to Congress and the elected representatives to do that many years ago. Now, Jimmy Carter could have done it in the 70s. Bill Clinton could have done it in the 90s before the Republicans took back the House in 94. Barack Obama said it would be the first thing he did, but instead the first thing he did was bail out his Wall Street friends. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden also said that the first thing he would do would be to codify Roe v. Wade into law, but the first thing he did was probably something to bail out his friends as well. But what is your opinion, Rev? And say hi to the people.
Good evening, everybody. It's so great to be with you. Missed you all from last week.
Yes.
I was off on the East Coast doing some church business. And I tell you something, I will never complain about driving in Gary ever again.
It isn't that bad compared to the rest of the country.
Compared to New York City, driving in Gary is beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
For one reason, if nothing else, one reason. There aren't nearly as many cars on the street. And so it's easy to get through a stop sign.
Yep.
It's easy to get through a yield sign.
Oh, I bet.
And you know what? In Gary, generally speaking, if it's a stoplight that has not been broken for a while, people in Gary treat stoplights like stoplights.
Oh, yeah.
Not as, would you mind stopping?
Right. When you see somebody doing the opposite, it's usually out of towner.
Yeah. But in New York City, there are no rules of the road. They're just suggestions. If you want to avoid having your car smashed, maybe you should do this. I tell you, driving from the airport to the hotel, by the time we got to the hotel, we swore we would never come back to New York City ever again. And then the next day, we walked to where I had to speak. We walked to where we went for breakfast. We walked where we went for lunch. And by the time that evening was over, we were like, we can't wait to come back here. Because the upside of New York City is it's designed for walkers, not for drivers. In whatever neighborhood you're in, chances are, if you live in New York City in a neighborhood or you're visiting someone in a New York City neighborhood, whatever you need is going to be in walking distance. Food, whatever, it's in walking distance. You don't have to drive. And one person told me, he said, look, there's a lot of people who live here who've never had a driver's license, and now I know why.
Yeah. Now we understand Seinfeld.
Yes.
But, Rev, the decision came down.
Back to the decision. I have thought from the first time I looked at Roe versus Wade that what they did was not wrong in terms of morals, right and wrong, but wrong in terms of the way our country is supposed to operate politically.
Right.
See?
Yep.
The Constitution is there as the foundation upon which every other law, every other ordinance, everything that involves how we operate as a nation is built. And the Constitution is supposed to be like the Ten Commandments. If it says something is wrong, it's wrong. If it doesn't speak to it, then it doesn't speak to it.
Right.
And there's nothing in the Constitution that speaks to any sort of medical procedures whatsoever.
Right.
That's not a constitutional issue, medical procedures.
No.
And whatever else you want to call it, abortion is a medical procedure.
Yep.
But secondly, the right to privacy. If we truly believe that there is an absolute right to privacy that can be extrapolated such that it would include almost anything that you would want to do with your own body, then how is it we just spent 2 years?
Yes.
2 years now having rules. And wait a minute,
Yep.
these weren't rules that were voted upon?
Nope.
Was it legislatively
Nope.
enacted?
Nope.
They were rammed down our throats. And
Yep.
yes, I wore a mask. Yes, I got the shots. But look at what the alternatives were.
Mm-hmm.
They wielded the sword of the state with absolute vigor. They told you what you could do with your own body.
Yep.
They told you where you could go with your own body.
Yep.
They told you how you could worship with your own body. All sorts of things that, and some of which are codified in the Constitution, like the right to worship freely. That's codified First Amendment. And yet, we like sheep, we accepted it. We said, sir, yes, sir, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Yep.
But when it comes to this issue, somehow this right to privacy, this not telling a woman what to do with her own body, it's amazing to me simply because we're not asking about what she does with her body. No one is suggesting that we should take knives and stick them into women.
Right.
No one is suggesting that we should give them hysterectomies, that we should allow them to sell body parts, for example.
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's illegal too.
Right.
Did you know that?
It is.
You cannot just sell your body parts or give your body parts away unless you're dead, in which case you don't have any say-so anymore. But just think about that. And then they took it out of the hands of the normal process of voting for something, of making decisions with your elected representatives. They issued a judicial edict. In fact, when Roe versus Wade was decided, and they talk about this in this this case, which is actually about it's a Mississippi case. Mississippi passed a law saying that you cannot have an abortion after 15 weeks.
Right.
And that's what's got this thing stirred up.
Right.
And so in Mississippi, they passed the law. And so now, in fact, both sides, I read the document that Politico received. Both sides, both the state of Mississippi on the one side, the health center and the Solicitor General on the other side argue that to let this law stand must mean you must overthrow Roe versus Wade in order to let this law stand constitutionally. Both sides said that. So when Justice Alito says we must overrule Roe versus Wade, he's just agreeing with both sides. To accept this law, we've got to overrule Roe versus Wade. So then the only question is, does Roe versus Wade have a fundamental right to be as a judicial decision? And I would argue it doesn't, because it takes out of the hands of the legislative body what rightly belongs to them.
Yep.
It acts in their stead, and it didn't settle the debate. In fact, it polarized the debate.
Right. Right. And more than anything, it gave the Democrats and the Republican lawmakers an easy out. And this is how they've chosen to legislate for the last 50 years in this country. Kick everything down to the Supreme Court, whether it's about Second Amendment stuff, whether it's about abortion, whether it's gay marriage, whether it's everything. Do your doggone jobs.
Yeah.
Do your jobs. Why are we paying you almost all $200,000 a year if you're not going to legislate and do your jobs?
Yeah.
Like I said, the Democrats, if they wanted to, they had majorities under Carter, Clinton, Obama, and Biden. They could have at any point decided to legislate Roe v. Wade into law if they felt that strongly about it. But no, they want to set them and the Republicans. Okay, they want to raise money because that's what this is about. I truly do believe that the Democrats leaked this opinion. They leaked this opinion on purpose because they knew they were going to get destroyed in November. And I was wondering why didn't the Biden administration seem to have any urgency whatsoever? Okay, they already said they're not going to do what they said they were going to do about legalizing marijuana, about a $15 minimum wage, or the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. They're not going to. He said he's going to use with the stroke of a pen cancel student debt. He's not going to do that. At least
do that either.
So I was like, where's the urgency? Here we go. They had this in their back pocket. They leaked this on purpose. So now they don't have to promise anything to the public, especially not the black folks. We're not even going to talk about reparations anymore. We're not going to talk about health care or the public option or the $15 minimum wage. We're not going to talk about justice and policing. We're not going to talk about any of that. Everything is going to be about abortion. Everything black, all our black people's issues are going to get pushed to the back. The working class and the poor's issues are going to be pushed to the back. And the Democrats and Republicans are solely going to run on abortion in the midterms. This is the worst thing that could have happened to us possible. But look, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this because I know if I don't say this, Jonathan will call and talk about this. But Jane Roe, Norma McCorvey, okay, her argument in the case, she was Jane Roe, Norma McCorvey. She argued that a black man had raped her, and that's why she needed to get an abortion because a black man had raped her. And that's what Roe v. Wade was basically based on. Now here's here's the like weird part, right? She was Jane Roe, then she became an anti-abortion activist for like the second half of her life and told the truth about, or at least talked about how she used, the fear of black, rape as a way. Then on her deathbed, she said that right-wingers had paid her to say that she was against abortion and that she wasn't really against abortion. So this woman was completely screwed up, regardless of how you look at it, whether you're pro-abortion, anti-abortion. She was out of her mind, apparently. Another thing I found very hilarious about this is that you remember, Rev, when the outrage about ivermectin, right?
Okay.
Yes, it was called a horse drug.
Yep.
So now that Roe v. Wade is being overturned, guess what liberals are recommending? A horse drug.
No.
Literally a horse drug called misoprostol. It is literally a horse drug to induce abortions.
Oh.
And so you have a lot of liberals online who are saying that this is how people are inducing abortion without Roe v. Wade. And they're actually showing people how to do this online. So the same people who complain about ivermectin, a human medicine that its creators, Satoshi Amura and William Campbell, won a Nobel Prize in medicine for in 2015 for treating river blindness in Africa. That was, you're going to kill yourself by taking that, but not misoprostol, which is literally a horse drug that will help you induce abortion. Also, something I saw online that was hilarious, a hilarious own of the libs was what's the twins, the Hodge twins, who are conservatives, said, well, if men can get pregnant, then how is abortion being anti-abortion sexist? And I was thinking, I was like, what do they mean by? Oh, right, because liberals have been pushing the transgender stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where men can be pregnant too.
Yeah.
So now being anti-abortion is no longer an anti-woman stand.